Hi guys! Today I want to show you how to make this super comfy dress. You can wear in winter and also in summer, and it's very beginner friendly, so let's get started!
You can find the sewing pattern for this dress by following the link in the description of this video. I recommend using elastic fabrics with at least 60% elasticity for this project. When cutting the pattern pieces, you can decide on which side you would prefer having the gathered side. By flipping both the front and back piece onto the other side, you can move the gathering from the left to the right side. If you're making view X, which is the Coatl top, the fabric consumption will be much less. I'm making the dress view in this video, but the steps are really the same, so I think this tutorial will be helpful for both views. After cutting your pieces, instead of using a bought band, you can also opt for cutting a 3 cm wide strip of fabric across the width of your fabric for making the band for the gathering. I folded the strip in half and I'm sewing across the long side, also sewing close to one short side. Then I'm turning the band inside out with a chopstick. You can also use a loop turner or similar tool. And this is the finished band. For the bodice, we first need to sew the shoulder seams right sides together. I'm using my overlock with a stretch setting, but you can also use a regular sewing machine with any stretch stitch you like. The next step is to add the sleeves to the bodice. Pin the sleeves to the armholes with the 2 notches on the sleeve piece matching the notch on the back piece and the shoulder seam. Now we can sew the sleeves to the armhole. As a next step, we can sew close the sides without the ruffle. For the dress view, this will be the longer side. For the top, it is the shorter side. Now we get to finish the hem. For this, fold 1 cm towards the inside and pin. Sewing all along this hemline. If you can get your hands on a twin needle, I definitely recommend switching to one now. A twin needle allows you to sew an elastic stitch with a straight stitch setting on your machine, since it is sewing with 2 threads at the top and 1 at the bottom. Sew the hem of the dress with your twin needle, or alternatively with any other stretch stitch. Next, we sew the other side seam. It is important to note that the seam allowance of this side is 1 cm at the sleeve and 1.5 at the bodice. Besides, this seam should not be sewn with an overlock, since we need to open the seam later on. Instead, I'm using a narrow zigzag stitch on my regular sewing machine with 1 needle only. Working from the wrong side, open up the seam allowance and top stitch the edge of the bodice, starting at the hem and working your way towards the arm side. This is how we create the tunnel for inserting the band for the gathering. When you reach the arm side, backstitch and cut off the thread, then switch over to the other side of the seam allowance, top stitch it with a narrow zigzag or other elastic stitch until you reach the hem. After finishing the tunnels, we can insert the band. I'm starting at the hem and I'm using a safety pin. When you reach the arm side at the top, pull half of the band out of the tunnel and insert the band into the other tunnel like so. Move the band all the way through the tunnel until you reach the hem again. Let's move on to hemming the sleeves. Working again with the twin needle, fold the hem allowance of 1 cm towards the inside and top stitch to get a clean finish. Lastly, we're going to add the collar to the dress. I chose the round neck, but the steps are basically the same for sewing the turtleneck. Put the short sides of the collar piece together and sew. Fold the loop we have created in half again, but this time along the long side. Pin and sew to make the next step easier. Mark the halves and quarters at the collar piece and also at the neckline. Then pin them together with the markings. The collar piece will need to be stretched in between the pinned locations. Sew the collar piece to the neckline using a stretchy stitch on your sewing machine or overlock. Optionally, you can top stitch the seam allowance of the collar with a twin needle to the neckline for an extra neat look. And this is the finished result. You can pull the band out as much as you like to increase or decrease the gathering effect. You can also opt for making the top view of this pattern, which you can see here on the right side in pink. Check out my Instagram for more inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, feel free to leave a like and comment and follow along for more sewing tutorials and sewing patterns. Bye!